good for tackling. And my response is, do it. Make it happen. You will have to critique other people's stuff less if there is a plurality of things going on. When the only thing going on is one thing, then you're forced to either critique it or have it represent you. But if you were doing something else, this actually wouldn't have to represent you.
Pay for it. And also
fired or let go or whatever over the solitary confinement. So, and I wasn't able to go, but I appreciate it because he did go. So, as far as doing opening and family and that sort of thing, making people feel uncomfortable to come and participate in our events. The concern of hate speech. I realize that I feel like everyone, it's a touchy subject because everyone should have the right to say what they want. On the other hand, hate speech with children around or people who are uncomfortable with it, it doesn't make it welcome. And I don't know how we can come together and make that a process that everyone can feel comfortable about participating with the marches and the demonstrations at the event.
Can you elaborate on hate speech?
Hate speech is the killing cops or fucks the cops. I don't think fucks needs to be used about children.
Thanks, Sarah.
As a point of information, legally, I'm pretty sure there's been at least one Supreme Court case that says if you don't have an audience that's compelled to hear things like fuck the cops wouldn't actually qualify as hate speech. And I don't think that it's necessarily appropriate for children by any stretch, but we have had actual hate speech on this site, and I think it's important not to conflate legal hate speech or what would legally qualify as hate speech and other forms of potentially less than favorable speech.
So this is this goes along with what the last two comments were, and I feel like I kind of started it by saying what I did. But I think what I was trying to articulate by saying, my frustration with things like ACOB and the word Fox and things like that are we can be so much more specific with this beautiful technology we have called language. We have a whole dictionary full of words that we can use that can point our meaning so much better. Like fuck, yes, it's explosive, it's angry, it articulates a lot of rage and like all the things that we hate. But if we tell people exactly what we're feeling, then our message can also be amplified. And I think that's where I get frustrated. And I was not victim blaming. I don't think that because somebody said something, they deserve to have something actually come. I think that that's stuff. But I think that this is basically, I think that right now really show and also too, before the action of the regular assaulting, I was having trouble getting the resources back. Feel like I could organize an action. I couldn't organize an action. But now that we have such a wealth of resources,
Mic check.
now that we have such a wealth of human capital, we have I didn't use that word, but we can orchestrate much bigger actions, and we can work on bigger projects that before we may have resources are in our economy, map it, and pass it out, we would need a huge team of people that have different types of connections. I think we have that now, and I think now it will be easier for us to act.
So the thing that I wanted to bring up was about the information packet and such, and it also ties into representing yourself. A lot of people keep talking about how there's not information that represents what we want or our goals, but I feel like the table is full of things that represent my wants and my goals, so maybe people need to make their own flyers and put them out there, bring their own information. And of course, signs are always good, but pamphlets are better. So I hope that we, as the collective universal you and Occupy Chapel Hill, hopefully like any person off the street will get into the habit of bringing pamphlets and putting them on that table.
So I want to do two things. One, I'd like to quickly read over the document that Outreach has been drafting thus far, because it speaks to a lot of what we're saying insofar as identifying and talking about ourselves. It's also directly related to goals and tactics, so to speak. And something I kind of like to do before that then is to, again, sort of point out that if this is to be a movement of movements, if it's to be a community that purports to represent the 99%, it has to be necessarily flexible. Anytime you sort of start making concrete things or start stating specific things for the movement as a whole, you do alienate part of that 99% because the 99% is divided and messy and all sorts of stuff. So we have to have that room for difference. We have to have the room for disagreement, so on and so forth. But again, I think this sort of unifying idea is the solidarity behind all of that that says we're willing to be empowering and supportive. And so I guess I would just like to say, maybe saying fuck the police is rather brusque or something, but when I see signs held up that say bring back Glass-Steagall, that pisses me off because that's not what I want out of this. I don't give a shit about financial reform, and it's alienating to me, but this is what a lot of people are on board with, and I respect that. So I hope that we can have this mutual respect that says there are different goals here potentially, but they are all goals that in some way are interwoven, and if they're not, we wouldn't be here otherwise. So to quickly, if I can, if you guys will allow me, it may take an extra 30 seconds or something, but I'd like to go over this document just really quickly with the hopes that you will respond directly to it, maybe afterwards, and hope to kind of getting some conversation going on this because we're going to bring it to a GA soon potentially. It is the document that is meant to be handed out by community members to people who have questions and want to know what's going on. One side is about identity and about statements of who we are and what are we doing. The other is going to be like a how-to guide to GAs and consensus and everything else, which I won't go over. Very briefly then, Occupy Chapel Hill is part of a larger global community started by Occupy Wall Street with a focus on Chapel Hill, an increasingly diverse community with many different political and social views, a collective of often ignored members of a broken democracy, united and often feeling taken advantage of and powerless in our own society. The 99%, and so are you, welcome. Our goals are to honor the varied views unique to each member of the 99%, address the social and economic injustices experienced by us all, create a new system that recognizes our shared humanity and values everyone equally, proclaim and ensure the importance of people over money, create a space where everyone comes together to speak, listen, and give support, avoid creating a list of demands that can be pigeonholed, manipulated, leveraged against, or even met, where we have no intention of giving up our blooming power and humanity in favor of returning to a patched up but still broken world. Our movement is just beginning. Bring power to the people and break the strangling grip of corporate government and learn from your goals. This is your movement, your opportunity. Help shape it. We will succeed by remaining intentionally leaderless so that power rests with the people, creating a safe community that encourages outspokenness and mutual respect, giving people an alternative to being left behind, drowned out, or silenced, listening to you for guidance. We need your voice. You should participate because our politicians offer us false choices while ignoring us and mistreating us. The rich are getting richer while unemployment, homelessness, and hunger are increasing. We are taxed by a government that does not serve our needs. Our respected elders are forced to watch as their money and retirement funds are stolen by gambling millionaires. Our children's futures are being destroyed, and they will be forced to bear the debt of our mistakes. The wealth of the few comes only with the suffering of many. There are problems at the root of our society that our current system does not allow us to fix. Whatever your reason, whatever your identity, whatever your lifestyle, your voice is being drowned out in the hot air rushing from the mouths of politicians and CEOs. You are us. Working together, we can make these changes. Welcome to Occupy Chapel Hill.
Point of information on that, if you have the feedback to the outreach group, know before giving it that they have spent so many hours trying to make this document, so think twice or hesitate before nitpicking or blocking without being thoughtful.
Just a quick point of information. I asked everybody, I asked that you post it with people, let us draft, because it was mentioned on one GA night, the people who come the next night is also part of the structure. I don't think it's not today, but how we democratize the structure, bring more people in. So I would urge that you post it. That is as a draft.
I guess I want to speak about how we address our differences. I want to suggest that there are two different ways to approach it. One is to acknowledge that we have differences. They may be strategic, they may be differences of taste, they may be differences in tactics. And to acknowledge that we disagree and say, this is why I disagree, maybe we can both learn from each other. And then another way, which often is mixed in with the first way, is attempting to delegitimize each other. Saying, your way of doing things is bad because it is violent, or because it is, immoral, or illegal for that matter. So, we all have ethics. Sometimes we check our ethics in the store. But I want us to be aware of the different kinds of power plays that we can make in these kind of interactions. Often when I see people go to certain power plays, that's when points become more irrational, become more of an obstacle to dialogue. Let's say that breaking into an empty, unused building is violent. That's a way of delegitimizing it. Saying that it's illegal and that's the problem. It's a way of delegitimizing it. The real question is, what should be more legitimate, laws or human needs? Finally, there's another point that has come up in these debates, which is this would be a great thing to do if everyone was in support of it, but only a few people do it in communities. I want to say that we're in a space like this so that we can build up trust in each other. Right now, a lot of us don't know each other very well, but over time we can get to know each other better, and we can come to act together. And if you think that an action would be worthwhile if 200 people were doing it, but only 100 people are doing it, you can be one of those second 200 people who follow it. And by putting your body out there with other people, if you feel comfortable doing that, if that is safe for you, you can actually make what you might otherwise see as a useless action useful. You can actually make it productive. That's the reason to always position ourselves as far forward as we can, given our means for this. Thank you.
I'd also like to clarify that I don't think the cops responded with assault rifles because people were chanting APAD. I think they responded with assault rifles because the person who signed their paycheck was very concerned about what we were doing. If anyone read If You Give a Mouse a Cookie When You Were Little, that was the way they saw that situation. If you give some activists a building, they'll want another. And they were just in the bus.
I just wanted to get back to this celebration around what I said at the beginning. Someone might have so I just wanted to get forward part of the outreach challenge. There are a lot of doers in this community, and it's extremely important that we reach out and bring our message and our analysis and so on, which amplifies the work that we're doing. I love the idea. I don't want to forget it's a welcome night. It might also be a welcome afternoon on a weekend where part of our outreach methodology will be more people to come and really have these conversations to listen. I think the issue, and it gets back to what everybody said, how we discuss and trust each other. The issue of 2 weeks ago or 2 weekends or whatever was maybe one of location. It wasn't about direct action. So I think we need to oh, well, okay. I mentioned earlier, I just have to say this because I am so furious at these developers in this town, and I wanted to really put that on the table. They're all over the place. It's not Yates as much, and that's another action, but it is the Colony Apartments now pulled apart. The same guy that, by the way, is trying to force, well, encourage the town to give him a contract at Ramsey Plaza. He needs issues, all the connecting and the analysis, you know, and the really important action.
I want to take up from where Brian was, but I think he raised the right question, which is basically our controversy is about how we do the relationship, how we do the relationship. And I think it's really important to talk about it. And you know, I think after the controversy of last weekend, I mean, I think it is where we is. You know, both sides felt the trust was broken in some ways, the relationship was broken in some ways. I mean, people like me felt that it was you know, sort of Occupy had been hijacked. We didn't know anything about it, the name, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure people on the other side said, wait a minute, we got criticized, we weren't representing ourselves as Occupy.
I'm okay right now.
You know, I mean, there were people were feel strongly about this. On both sides were felt burned. Burned. And so we have to understand, okay, so what agreements can we make with each other so that doesn't happen here? You know, I mean, it's like marriage. I've been married for 42 years. We have to go through social, argument, clarification, politics. No, right. But it gets a little bit after a while. But, you know, that's as sort of one occupant, we've got to get real clear about what those, how we do that first, and what are the parameters of that. And, you know, and the question of violence or what is characterized as violence, and all that information we don't have to go into, but we know what the sort of the ends of the parameters of that scale are. So my question is very concrete. Are we going to be several occupiers? Is it going to be occupy anarchist, occupy organizers and non-violence, or that sort of thing? Or are we going to try to look at one occupy, and if we do look at being one occupy, how are we going to negotiate that relationship? How are we going to, I mean, because we have to pay attention.
I would like to echo what you said about one conversation that doing like someone asked me now when's the right action meeting. We don't have this kind of meeting, so I said let's go for one. So I'm going to make a conference like this, and I'm passionate about time and time. I really miss having time here. Some of the I would like to go for a time meeting with me on Wednesday after the General Assembly, and also I would like to call to people to prepare time at home. Just prepare one time at home and bring it, and this will also allow us to show the multitude of opinions that we have, like Sandra said before. Each one makes their own sign and write whatever they want on it, and then we can hang them on the walls, we can hang them on the stands, we can hang them everywhere here, and then people will know what are all the opinions that we would like to express, what information we want to do. So, when's that?
3 o'clock.
Okay, 3 o'clock, we can either conclude now or we can go for 10, 15 more minutes. Your preference? 10, 15 more minutes?
No, 10 people on the back end.
I vote for 15 minutes, okay? Thumbs up? Not thumbs down? Okay, 15 more minutes.
Things brought up that I like to talk about another conversation. Really is an important thing. Trying to work out together.
Nadia? You're on set? Oh, okay. Sorry.
before, and it speaks for all of us. It will never happen, and I think that that's probably a bunch related to why it's taken like 2 weeks of various variations, because everyone's like wordsmithing and saying, oh, no, you don't forget to throw that in. You have 10 people on out. Now bring it before 50 people at a GA. It won't have, that's my concern. I feel like we needed one like after a day. So whatever your first draft was, we could have thrown it out and then done version number 2. But, I mean, that's just my opinion. I know I saw some down people here. But I feel like we can never have complete consensus on what we stand for if we believe in a plurality of opinions. So I don't think it's fair to a working group to demand that they bring everything that they do before a GA. We'll get bogged down. I think I respect the people active in the outreach working group. And I respect what they produce. I feel like it's great. And if you don't like it, you can create your own version of it.
Since the price for event, for whatever reason, and this can differ about that, all I get is that we have been talking about ourselves and our division. The crucial, to my mind, when I became a participant, the crucial aspect of this was to find the point upon which we agree, the point upon which we consent. I think it's time to put that behind us as an autonomous action. At the same time, to talk about there being critics and there being doers is anti-consensual, as well as implicit rejection of freedom of speech. It is divisive. We need to move past that and start concentrating on what we do agree with and get back to what we were.
The smartest thing I've ever heard him say.
I have a question because I didn't even read the statement. Right now, Occupy movements are mostly urban. What happens to us? I'm not from Chapel Hill. I'm from Africa. What happens to rural America? Most of the poverty is in rural America. Most of the lack of access to anything, health care, opportunity, jobs in rural America. What do we do about rural America?
You're not blushing.
No, I'm not. Just trying to be efficient.
You talk about it.
But I don't know what's yours.
That's my thing?
Yeah. Wasn't it?
No.
I guess real quick, as far as the outreach thing, the only reason we need consensus is because it's being presented as on behalf of the entire occupation. I don't think we need to have a piece of paper that we could have the same thing if it was distant from saying this is what represents the entire Occupy Chapel Hill. So that's just why it's currently in the state that it's in. It's not that I disagree with what you were saying at all. It's just that's the necessity of the way it's being presented. As to the question of should we have one occupation? Do we need multiple occupations? Can Occupy be hijacked? I mean, it's a movement that has sprung up autonomously in numerous places. To pretend that it can't be hijacked, or that hijacking even has any sort of relevance within the scope of what it is, it just strikes me as a very odd question. And especially if you look at cities that have multiple occupations and cities that have offspring actions that are presented as occupations and all of these other things, I don't think it's a question we even need to ask. I mean, if a group of people want to go off and do something and call themselves Occupy, I mean, hey, if the group that streaks the Union Library, or the undergraduate library, Conley Sandtimes wants to call themselves Occupy the Library and do that, I mean, that's all by standard. And I think to bring up these issues creates a lot more points of division and points of contention rather than saying the Occupy movement is open to anyone who wants to start an occupation in anything that they call for, in anything that they see as being related to the movement. There was another point. Oh, right. And I'm sorry because I know I've said that point before, and I know I said the point I'm about to make before, but having been part of direct action since the beginning, having in the case of the official bank transfer day march, having put up well over 100 flyers, having, gotten out on Facebook, having gotten out on the listserv, having, to hear criticisms of maybe we weren't doing enough to put ourselves out there, and then to only have 15 people there, when I know that there were people who, and granted some people had conflicts and the like, but people voiced all sorts of really vociferous support at GAs, and then I didn't see them. And I think the fact that there were so many people at Yates, and so many people willing to then come out in support of that and in other occupations, the eviction of other occupations for the solidarity marches, with significantly less preparation, significantly less organization, I think that there's a really interesting kind of phenomenon taking place that's disconnected from a lot of the talk we're having regarding direct action and what are we doing, what are we organizing, all of this. And I would encourage anybody who's interested, please register for the direct action listserv or come up to me and give me your email and I'll register you, because we've had woefully little input from the community on these actions until people wanted to say we weren't a fan of an action that wasn't even done through direct action. So, sorry for putting that out there.
So I guess I'd touching back on what Pete said, and then a couple other people touched on this idea of sort of needing to look at how we relate to each other and sort of looking at this as a relationship. And I think it's particularly apt to talk about marriage, because that's a structure that historically has a lot of problematic controlling elements, which I don't want to see recreated here. I'm not interested in replicating those dynamics and structures of control that are outside of us, so to speak. I don't think that consensus is a model for controlling people, and I think a lot of this stems from this idea of myself and my movement and why what I want to do is most important and how do I ensure that it gets done, how is my vision carried out. And I think the problem then is that it does become fairly self-involved, which necessitates control over other people and actions and statements. I don't want to see Occupy saying this because that doesn't reflect me. When in reality, I think Mike nailed it. If you want to see Occupy stand for something, do it. Put it out there and make it stand for that. Don't try and control everybody else so that there's sort of a negative or a lack of sort of behaviors that you disagree with, but instead promote your own behavior and put it out there, because only through a diversity of tactics and a kind of movement of movements that we like to espouse but not all the time enact can we really do that thing where we sort of umbrella the left and where we empower everybody, truly empower everybody, and we can sort of follow through with our ideals. So let's not bring back in these problematic power structures of control. So don't worry about what the media says about it, because they're going to say shit either way. It doesn't matter. So focus on getting yours out there, and maybe if yours is up front, you'll get some media coverage.
Yeah, it's a really diverse group, and there are going to be disagreements. But regardless of that, we need to delegitimize this response that's totally out of any reasonable bounds of justice. If you have issues about health, you don't respond by macing people in the face. If you have issues about people being where they don't belong, you don't go in with assault like pointing at them things. We need to delegitimize the response.
Right. As far as the relationship goes, well, not necessarily even just the relationship, as far as
Mic check.
As far as the term occupy goes, I think to have a question of are we going to have one occupy or several occupies, I feel that there are already hundreds, thousands of occupies something. The term of occupy everything wasn't created for the first time on Saturday. It had been used a lot before Saturday. And I think that's an important thing for people to know when that question
this comes out of the independence movement that we hijacked. I think it's clear from the initial statement by Occupy Wall Street, right, that A, you certainly cannot hijack this movement by occupying a building, because that's part of the initial call. But more importantly, the initial call shows us that this was a movement started by the far left. Adbusters is an anarchist magazine that called for this, that called for Occupy Wall Street. The individuals who organized Occupy Wall Street were Marxists and anarchists. This is a left movement that has destroyed the middle's enjoyment, and we are excited that the middle is in a place right. I'm not excited that people are being kicked out of their houses, but the middle is in a place right now where their lifestyle has been compromised, and they are inclined to join us, but that does not mean that their liberal political baggage is going to dilute the initial call what our goal should be is to move the center to the left, not to have the left running to meet the center in a place that this country has already been in for the last 50 years. And so I guess I am concerned about alienating people, but I think it's really a matter of asking, what are these people that we're alienating actually down to do and actually on board with? Because if there's a large group of anonymous, amorphous people who want to slam us in comments in the newspaper or in the comment section on the Daily Tar Heels, would those people have actually come out to do something regardless, or can we count on them to sit at home and have passive support on some useless bet? Or are these people that we can actually put in the streets, and are we actually alienating people that we can actually put in the streets, and who would actually join a leftist movement? Lastly, and sorry, this will be 2 seconds, but as far as organizing these events in advance, is there anyone who actually thinks that you can organize an illegal event of the nature of that openly in a GA? Okay. I'm just saying. I might not do that.
Not if I'm filming it, right?
Power plant, the discussion is, do we build this or not? A bike shed, the discussion turns to, well, maybe we should use shingle, maybe we should use siding, maybe what color do we paint it? And you get bogged down in details when everybody's in agreement that we should, everybody, or almost everybody's in agreement that, we need this thing. We need the bike shed, we need this document. But you get so bogged down in the details that it never gets done. And it's told to software developers in particular because they're really friendly. They don't common expertise. Everybody has how you should do this thing. But if you listen to everyone's input, every little tiny piece that you might possibly want to build into something, every little tiny idea that you want to build into something, then you end up with a 2,000-page document that nobody agrees on, and you're back where you started every time you go through that process. That's a real danger here. With a consensus model, what we have to be aware of and actively trying to work to avoid and to recognize when we're doing it, so that when we recognize what's happening, we can take a step back, let people do what they're best at doing, and not get hung up on the little details, but rather on the big details. Also in that line, we also need to be taking the model. There's a danger that blocks are necessary, but there's a danger that blocks actually end up filling the will of a minority rather than filling the will of the people. That if your position is the status quo, you can hold that position without consensus to hold that position. Because all you have to do is disrupt the consensus rather than establish it. So that's a real danger in the consensus model that we have to be aware of. And maybe we need to look at what we do when somebody gets instructions rather than simply blocking the model. Those are two different things. Also, kind of a quick, simple second question. How many of you have not
brought a proposal forward because he was afraid of it. How many people here have not brought a proposal forward because they were simply afraid someone would block it? Anybody?
Mm-mm.
So, I mean, that's a consideration, that just the threat of the block there keeps ideas from getting up. Something, food for thought. Go ahead.
Thumbs up. Okay. So are we ready with the final comment that this guy said?
Yeah, I had one. I got skipped a number of times. All right, so I just want to stress the importance of feeling like you have agency here. There's a lot of people saying, why isn't this thing getting done? We're not servants or representatives of each other. We need that. We're taught in society that someone else should take care of things. We need to have agency to create the world we want to live in. And so if you have an idea that is probably awesome, you should present it to the GA and say, I will bottom line a working group. I will get this done. She did that when she was talking about the sign. So you need to have personal agency. If you want something to happen, you have to. You have to start.
Of course.
I'll try to be quick. A lot more people started coming here after the occupation of the Chrysler Building. I think because they realized that this was a site of power, that this is a place where people can organize together to do things. And if what we want to do is to create another way that power can flow in our society through spaces like this, the way to demonstrate that is possible is by actually making the changes that we want to see. To the extent to which we succeed in doing that, people will come here, and we will become more and more powerful in a horizontal way. That's the way forward, as I see it.
Thanks, Brian. Any final comments, Lucy?
As the disproportionate response to the police at the Chrysler Building and the attacks on Occupy are taking place around the country, I think one of the things to continue is some of the really substantive, specific examples that people raised today about ways to continue building these things out in the community are really support the idea of go through different variations. But I think saying that the community, we're here about economics, it's not where we're it's not where we think that the space and state of 99% of the library turns out tremendous. I love the idea of walking. Come in a secure space, talk to the community, many people
Mic check.
around move women as something that people in the community can do so that they don't just have to walk past, but they can actually be invited to do something, and other kinds of things that give people something to do. That's what Wolf did here in the Vietnam War, and on some of the days, and for example, during the invasion of Cambodia, there were people lining here from down to Spanky and back down the other way. So if we find different ways for the community to be involved, build and strengthen our movement, no matter what kind of attack comes in.
I just want to make a comment. We have 4 people left on staff, and that'll be it. Finally, I promise. 4 folks left. Open, democratic, everybody's voice counts. I know we're running over. I know we are. We have full responsibility, but I want everybody to be heard. 4 folks left.
We're marching. I want to point out that we're marching from on Monday. Let me tell you, at the same time, in Chapel Hill, Jim Neal, who some of you know, ran for senator in the years and so on, but he is presenting, Indiana, he is presenting a demand, 29 demands of the Chapel Town Council. That's where we can bring all our strategies together in one place. He is demanding they have a commission on police abuse. The NAA has been pressing that for decades about police abuse, as I mentioned earlier. His demand for commission investigation together with the police march. 7 at town council.
Right. We're marching
At 6.
to the town council.
Right. So we'll all be together is what I'm saying.
Very good.
Great opportunity.
I'm dead.
Whoever makes them about, you know what?
I'm not saying it's hard, I'm just saying it's a far left. It was.
Don't kick the far left out of it, though. I mean, and we're going to act the way that we do.
I appreciate that whoever wants to take actions that they feel compelled to do and don't want to plan it ahead of time, it's a free country so far. Not quite. No, sorry.
We need to make some...
It was a free country, and just don't impose on the rest of us in the next race. Don't impose on the rest of us in the next race that has been presented or performed by the anarchists, which is no problem here with the people out there that understand it all,
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much. Just a few concluding comments, guys. First, thanks for being here. Thanks for staying so long. Please consider attending our GA and staying for another 90 minutes or so.
Oh my gosh.
Probably shorter GA today, probably begin in about 15 minutes. Point number two, I wanted to, if there's one metaphor, and I'm sorry, Candace is not here to hear this, but something that Stephanie said a minute ago, you know, when she asked, well, how many of you here have been afraid to raise your hand during the GA to make a proposal because you fear being processed? There was no hand raised. This is a pretty remarkable, outspoken group. Nobody's holding back here. That came out today. It is remarkable for that alone, not to mention all the different perspectives here. And finally, Alice Carlton, not Alice Lloyd, but Alice Carlton, her first contact by Pepco, kept time the whole time. Ainsley did wonderful work. Ainsley and Steve on keeping stack today. It's not easy. And Becca, I don't know how she's still standing.
I had help. Chad was my tripod.
Chad, I'm sorry.
Chad was my tripod.
Chad's my tripod.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going
Thanks,
to have
Chad.
more of these, folks. We're going to have more. They're going to be ongoing throughout the winter. We're putting everything on the table, doing everything we can to be open and transparent. Everybody's voice matters. That's what the Occupy thing is all about. Wonderful creativity here. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks, Harry.